All right. All right. Thank you for sitting down and doing this interview with me.
Yes.
So what do you teach and how long have you been teaching?
I teach bilingual kindergarten, and I've been teaching it for 16 years.
Okay. So what activities do you use in the classroom to help your students learn and practice English?
Well, since it's kindergarten, is their early age, and vocabulary is one of the things that you need to practice more. And so we do a lot of speaking in complete sentences, a lot of visuals, so the kids learn the name of the stuff, and then they learn how to apply it in their talking orally. So that's basically most of the things that I do. Mm-hmm.
So how often are your students speaking English in your classroom?
In my classroom, in the school I work with, we have what is called a dual language model, where we use a language of the day. So 3 times a week we do Spanish, and 2 times we do English. So the transitions in school are in English, the 2 days that we do in the English as the language. And I teach in math in English every day.
Okay.
So that's when they get most of the English. Mm-hmm.
So do your students get tenses confused?
They do, and I think this is across the board in 5-year-olds that they try to say something and their tenses are like complicated for them to.
So do you just when you hear something that's incorrect, do you just correct them?
What I do is I tell them what they meant, and then I ask them to repeat. I never tell them that it's wrong.
Okay.
I just tell them, oh, you meant this, and then I say it the correct way, so they repeat it back.
Okay, so perfect. So is there anything else that they struggle with?
It's basically communication, what they struggle with. Because if I have to stick to the language where we're like math, if everything has to be in English and they don't know how to say, they get a little frustrated to communicate. So communication is the biggest struggle at this point.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're planning your lessons and activities, do you find trying to find cognates difficult?
They can be easy and complicated, depend on the words we use. But sometimes I tell them that sounds just like in Spanish, and this is the way you use it. But cognates in kindergarten are not as used to be taught. But if we find a cognate that I tell them, okay, this is in Spanish and this is in English, it doesn't sound right or the same, and they say yes, and they say, well, that's a cognate. Okay. But I know that they focus on cognates as they get older.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So do some of your students ever randomly switch from English to Spanish when they're speaking?
They do. The famous Spanglish. Because at this point, if they have older siblings or they watch TV in English, but Spanish is spoken at home, it's easy for them to switch from one language to the other if they don't find the words in either language. Okay. So what they do is just mix them up. So it's easy for them. Okay. And sometimes we have English words that they don't have a translation because it's the name of somebody or like a term that we don't have a word for it, so it's easy for them to just switch from one other.
Okay. So what would you say motivates your students the most, in the classroom?
At this age, a lot of verbal praising is very important. Okay. You did a good job. That's the right thing to do. Good choices and things like that. So I think verbal or a cheer up or something works a lot with 5-year-olds. Okay. Yeah.
So how does this type of motivation and the student's attitude, how does that influence your lesson planning?
Well, I make sure that I'm ready for it, that I'm teaching this and this is the way I'm going to handle it, I'm going to make sure that there is a lot of interaction so I can make sure that I know from everybody that they're learning and I'm ready to say, yes, good job. But if a student is not ready to answer, I'll make sure that somebody is ready to help, intervene and say, oh, that's the way you do it, Brennan. So I make sure that I have a lot of times for that.
Good.
To motivate them. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that learning a new language is easier the younger you are?
I think it is. At 5-year-olds, even the English-speaking kids are learning to speak. So their brains are like sponges. The brains are like sponges. So when it's something brand new, even academically, the kids are open to learn. They will absorb anything you teach them. So the younger they are, the better, I think, yeah.
Okay, so have you noticed any differences in children who started learning English at a younger age versus those who didn't?
Yes, because they are, if they're older, I never taught at an older grade, but I know people that have started learning English at an older age. And it's hard because you already know a language. So I came to the United States when I was 15, and it was hard, you know. But you have to be willing to learn, you know, also. So it's a combination of both things. But I think it's harder as you grow because you have one language, you know. You're not learning two at the same time like my kids are, but I think it's harder, yeah.
Okay, and so have you noticed any of your students, do they get stressed or worried or anxious or like have bad feelings just like throughout the process of learning?
They can, because they want to communicate. They want to tell you, and if you're like, our language is English right now, try, you know, and you help them out, you know. But you can feel the anxiety, like, you know, like how do I say this, you know? And they get frustrated because they want to get the message across. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.